Story Corner, presented by Jennifer. Spirit Animals. Book 1, Wildborn. Chapter 9, Visions, Part 2. In less than an hour, Conor was escorted past a dozen armed guards and through multiple sets of double doors to a high room with the curtains drawn. He found Olivanen, Lenore, Tarkin, Rollan, and Meilin waiting along with all of their spirit animals. Tarkin's otter darted about the room in bursts of motion, clambering across furniture and bookcases. Tarkin's pairing with Limo seemed odd, since the tall green cloak was so serious. Olivan's moose stood near the fireplace, its massive form out of place indoors. The dignified room had a feel similar to the Earl of Turnswick's study, but it was even bigger. Olivan stood up, rubbing his hands together, and swept the room with his keen, knowing gaze. In spite of white in his hair and beard, he had thick, powerful limbs and a broad chest. Age had not yet robbed him of strength or vigor. Conor could easily imagine him astride his moose, leading an army into battle. The commander of the Greencloaks noisily cleared his throat. "I know we have kept you in suspense regarding the roles we hope you will play. You can blame me for the delay. I prefer to know the whole story before I share it. Joining the Greencloaks is merely the first step towards the vital purpose we hope you'll serve. Given recent developments," he nodded towards Conor, "the time to act is upon us." Olivan strolled over to the mantel. When he turned to face the others, his expression was grave. Centuries and centuries ago, in the last worldwide war, the foreign nations of Erdas battled the Devourer and his army of conquerors. Two great beasts aided the Devourer, Kovo the ape and Garethon the serpent. 4 of the great beasts sided with us. 3 of them are here today. Ollivan paused to let that sink in. Feeling unworthy, Conor considered Brigand. The wolf sat listening attentively. Before the original Exus, Brigand, Jin, and Uza joined the fight, we were losing the war. None of the continents went unscathed. Most of Nilo and Zong had fallen. The Zonganese and Nilolians who escaped fled to Ira and Amaya, only to find those nations were besieged as well. Cities were razed. Food was in short supply. It was only a matter of time before the Devourer declared victory. The Green Cloaks were a fledgling organization then. But when the 4 great beasts showed their support, when 4 of the great beasts showed their support, the marked flocked to join us. The Green Cloaks did what nobody else had done. They mounted a major offensive, taking the fight to the Devourer. The 4 great beasts gave their lives in the fight, which is why they are known as the 4 Fallen. But the Devourer fell as well, and Kovo and Garethon were captured. The cost was great, but the 4 nations emerged victorious and began to rebuild. "What about the rest of the beasts?" Rollan asked. "The other 9. Ollivan shrugged. Seeing the damage that 2 of their own had caused, a few of the great beasts offered their aid at the very end. Tulin, the elk, the most powerful of them all, imprisoned Kovu and Garethon for their crimes, and Nina, the swan, gifted the Green Cloaks with the secret of creating nectar. The rest, well, the great beasts are a strange group. They are seldom unanimous on any issue, and their purposes are almost inscrutable. They tend to remain aloof, only getting involved in times of the direst peril. The Devourer didn't count as serious trouble, Rollan scoffed. Ollivan sighed. One can only speculate. Perhaps some of the great beasts felt it best to protect their own territories, or their talismans. Conor looked at Lenora in question. Each of the great beasts protects a unique talisman. Lenora inserted, a totem that houses great power. Except for Kovu, Garethon, and the Fallen 4, Meilin said. Their talismans vanished after the war. Some suspect that Telem had asked Haro the Eagle to hide them. Very good, Ollivan said. You studied your history. The events surrounding the great beasts are often dismissed as legend. I am glad that some in Zong have considered those deeds worth remembering outside of children's tales. Meilin reddened slightly. I heard about that from my nanny, not my instructors. Ollivan frowned. The great beasts have been out of sight for a long time. We honor the fallen on our flags. We paint pictures. We build statues. We tell stories. But for most people, the great beasts belong to a time long past. Some doubt whether they even existed. I was one of those, Rollan said, until Exus came along. Ollivan nodded. You are not to be blamed. It is prevalent opinion, shared in varying measures by the Prime Minister of Amaya, the Queen of Ira, the Emperor of Zong, and the High Chieftain of Nalo. And yet, during the most critical crossroads in history, the great beasts have always played a major role. We are now rushing towards a crisis where the great beasts may prove more important than ever. You think the Devourer is back? Meilin asked, her whole body quivering with agitation. You think that is who attacked Zon? Why weren't we warned? We only had our suspicions, Ollivan said sadly. My voice has been rising in warning to the leaders of all the nations, but I cannot force them to heed me. And we still don't know the whole story, Lenora explained. Ollivan nodded. We get new information every day. Whether we're up against the same Devourer who leveled much of Erdas long ago, or some inheritor to his legacy, we are still not sure. What is sure is this. The Devourer can raise vast, powerful armies in a short time. He can be patient and subtle, or ruthless and brash, depending on the need. He inspires manic devotion in his followers, and he would gladly destroy the civilized world to rule over its ashes. What do we need to do? Conor asked. Olivan glanced at Conor, Meilin, and Rollan in turn. Our spies have learned that the Devourer has once again made collecting the talismans a top priority. Each talisman has different powers that can be used by one of the marked. Our enemy wishes to employ those powers against us. So we're going to recover the talismans before he can. Wait, Rollan said as the color drained from his face. You want us to go after the talismans of the great beasts. You won't be alone, Olivan said. The Green Cloaks have no finer warrior than Targan. He will serve as your guide and protector. I lament that you're all so young, but your connections to the Fallen will be critical in finding and retrieving the talismans. These talismans could change the course of the war. All of Erdas needs you. As the full enormity of the task hit him, Conor felt lightheaded. How was he supposed to go up against a great beast? This was beyond dangerous. Olivan had basically handed them a death sentence. He reached out a hand to Briggan. The wolf nuzzled his palm. Without Briggan, they wouldn't know where to find Arax. Conor tried to steel himself. Olivan was right. If the Devourer wanted these talismans, the Green Cloaks had to get to them first. Conor wasn't sure how they would, but they needed to try. We'll do our part, Conor pledged, though his voice broke on the words. Speak for yourself, Rollan said. I meant me and Briggan, Conor explained, flushing. Oh, right, Rollan replied. He faced Olivan. Well, I see why you need us. My question is, what do we get out of it, besides risking our lives to do something we're not ready for? As a Green Cloak, it is your duty, Lenore said calmly. Your reward would be the same as ours, the satisfaction of defending what is right, defending Erdas. I'm not a Green Cloak, Rollan said. I may never join. We'll do it, Meilin said, giving Rollan a disgusting glance. Jin and I, this is what I hope for, a chance to make a difference. I've seen what is coming. Zong has the best armies in the world, and these new conquerors are tearing us apart. We mustn't let them get more power. They must be stopped. It would be my honor to join your ranks and defend Zong as you described. Conor studied Meilin with admiration and a little bit of fear. He could scarcely imagine what hardships awaited, but at least he and Briggan wouldn't face them alone. Who did Rollan think he was? What reward did he expect? Rollan sighed. And if I don't want to become a Green Cloak? How selfish can you be? Meilin seethed. Zong is under attack. The rest of Erdas will be soon. What other big offers do you expect the world to give a coward during wartime? I never had any offers until Exus showed up, Rollan snapped. The Green Cloaks only cared about me once I got my bird. There's a city full of orphans just like me who Olivan was all too happy to pass by until he found Exus. Maybe I wonder why the Green Cloaks only include marked people. Maybe I wonder who put them in charge of the great beasts and their talismans. And maybe, unlike you, I don't love getting pushed into situations I don't understand. I want to know exactly who I'm working for and why. Olivan glanced at Taran and Lenore. Slowly he stood and walked to where Rollan was seated until he stood right before him, staring down. Conor wondered if he was going to try to intimidate Rollan, but when the large man spoke, his voice was controlled. I can understand wanting to take your time with a decision this big. I believe that time spent among the green cloaks will relieve your doubts as to our sincerity. We don't believe we're in charge of the great beasts. We do our job because we know that, along with the great beasts, we're the last line of defense. What about the government? Rollan asked. The Prime Minister and all of them. Olivan made a skeptical face. They do what they do. They administer. They make and enforce laws. They squabble about commerce, and they occasionally fight with each other. It's just human squabbling. But we're gifted to see something beyond the corners of man, the concerns of man. We were each gifted with a spirit animal, and so we protect Erdas, all of Erdas, with everything we have. Rollan compressed his lips. I'm not crazy. I don't want Erdas to become a wasteland, he considered. What if I'm not ready to join the Green Cloaks? But I'm willing to help. May I suggest another option for you? Olivan said. We frequently work with marked individuals who don't accept our vows. We don't normally give them access to our weightiest secrets, but these circumstances are extraordinary. Let me sleep on it, Rollan said. Conor turned away and closed his eyes. Regardless of who else came along, tomorrow he would venture into the wilderness to chase a legend. Leaning close to his wolf, he whispered, What have we gotten ourselves into?